and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects all of us. I am Sandra Eze, and I'm joined tonight by my very amazing co-hosts, NJ and Olua Damilo.
Thank you for
Did you
pronouncing
know
my name
that
well.
right now she has told the entire Nigeria, don't call me Dami anymore, it's Olua Damilola.
Yes, please. Thank you.
How are you? How was your day?
Very well,
Anything interesting
thank you.
happen?
Nothing interesting. I went to the gym. My body's paining me. But yeah.
Gym rats. I can't just...
NJ, did you play tennis?
You know, please. That was
It's
yesterday.
a work day.
So you don't play tennis on work days?
I do after work. After when I'm not
on schedule. Okay, when you're not working.
When I'm not
here,
delivering
away.
my beautiful self on ways.
Okay.
No mind me.
Wow.
So I was telling Dami that I'm not a... You wouldn't see me at the gym unless I'm on holiday, because it will be harder to get access to a tennis court. So when I'm on holiday, the hotel, that seems like the only, form of exercise you get to do. So that's when, so I don't know, when people scream about, gym every day, I do workouts in the morning, about 20 minutes in the morning, just to ginger my body up. But that's it. Tennis is like the major thing, and swimming that I do. I know.
Yeah, I think the only workout I do, like I enjoy, is skipping.
Fair. Skipping. I mean, at least you can burn some calories.
Yeah, maybe walking, but...
I like to have a toned body, so please let me carry my irons and stuff.
No, yeah. I think it's a good idea. Like, to, like, how would I put it? Equal the body mass.
Proportion and everything. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Here's what we found as today's quote. The care of human life and happiness and not their destruction is the first and only object of good government. That's a quote by Thomas Jefferson. Any reactions to it?
The care of human life and happiness.
Care of human life and happiness and not their destruction is the first and only object of good government. Government. I absolutely agree.
Good.
I think I agree too. I do agree.
So now, hear the story. A 4-story structure on Dosimu Street in the Idumota neighborhood of Lagos Island that was used as a residence and a fabric business was completely destroyed by fire early yesterday morning. The absence of water supply was cited by the Lagos zone of the National Emergency Management Agency, that's NEMA, as the reason for the fire's escalation, which destroyed 4 structures in the Idumota neighborhood of the state's Lagos Island local government area. The lack of water supply presented a problem for the emergency personnel, since it could have helped put out the fire more quickly and reduced the amount of damage it caused. Since there was no water supply close to the fire occurrence, the fire trucks had to go obtain water one by one. Whew. It's our ladies' night. NJ, Dami, and I are here to discuss the topic. Does the government truly care for its citizens? Does Nigerian government really care for her citizens? And when we open the phone lines, we'll love to hear what you have to say. But first, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll find out what we found in the news. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Ways, What Are You Saying? And well, pervasive in nature and based on the electromagnetic spectrum that the human eye can behold, color is not only about beauty, but it is deeply embedded in science. Learn more about and show appreciation for this aspect of visual perception by celebrating International Color Day. Imagine life without colors.
It's very boring.
I know.
Just bleh. Nah, it's not going to be
So
cute.
you would have had things like just black and grey,
Black and white.
and white.
No.
Yeah.
As much as I love black, but I love to mix things like colors.
Yeah.
Color
Like your
does
frames
that.
has a bit of pink and
there's
burgundy
always,
on it. Yeah.
So colors I think it beautifies any environment. Look at the studio, for example.
Imagine it being all white or grey or black. Like, I'm sorry, it's not a burial.
It won't be given at all.
So I think it's very, very important for us to understand what color does to our life. It brings
life.
See the smiles,
Brightness. What's your favorite color? NJ,
Black.
there is no number 2.
Alongside so for me, I pick a color every year. Last year was green, which kind of entered into this year, but this year is kind of like more black and purple, like burgundy, purple.
Wow. That's a first for me.
Yeah,
You
no.
like change colors
Really?
every year. What's your favorite color?
I don't think I have a favorite color, funny enough. I just like to wear whatever looks good on me or have any color that looks nice.
Oh,
Let me
wow.
put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't have a favorite
My
color.
favorite color is black and red.
Right.
And then blue got in because Norma influenced the blue into me. Norma
Yeah.
is so obsessed with blue.
Yeah,
Nah.
that's the thing.
Can do.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so let's find out what we found in the news, starting with you, NJ.
So my news is about the African Games. So there have been different videos circulating the internet about the ongoing African Games in Ghana, and you know most of it has been about it has been like a Nigeria versus Ghana competition, because since the
It's always
world
been
since
Nigeria
the
versus Ghana.
yeah since the last football match and everything that has happened in the last football game, it has
Yeah.
been like a competition.
Yeah.
So Nigeria taunts. So my news is a video circulating the internet, and this was was the male team, Nigerian team, winning the 4x100 relay race against Ghana. So Ghana came second, and you know in the background you can hear the guy behind the camera saying, you know, waiting for the result until it was shown on the board, because I think it was a very, very close call. And also, even in that light, you know, the Nigerian athletic team won also the 4x400 relay race. And I think they also won the arm wrestling. And currently on the, what do they call it? On the table, Nigeria is currently second with a total of 90 medals, you know, and we're leading at 35 gold medals.
Wow.
And this is right behind Egypt. So Egypt is number 1 with about 167 medals in total. So I think we're doing great, because at the point in time, right now, if we're going by the whole Nigeria versus Ghana, Nigeria is leading, because Ghana is currently number 6 on the ladder. So I think we're doing pretty well, and we can see some other countries, you know, coming in some beautiful positions, but Nigeria is doing tops right now, and I would say congratulations to the team.
I'm just wondering, are we ever going to see the end of this fight between Nigeria and Ghana?
I mean,
it started with
lie.
jollof rice, and it just gets into other parts. The music, Afrobeat, Ghana is like, Nigeria, does Afrobeat have to be only about you? Well,
I don't think
we'll
it's,
ever see the end.
yeah, I don't think it's ever gonna end.
all right, Davy, let's hear what you found in the news.
All right, so what I found in the news for us today is very similar to the topic of discussion anyway. Well, about the fire that happened at Lagos Idumota. First, I don't know why. I mean, this Idumota fire, it feels like every year, quarterly, there's always a fire. I'm not sure what the problem is. And considering how they built the houses in Eko Idumota, they are literally, in fact, if you open one window, you can literally be seeing the next house, literally. So, you know, 3 houses were caught up in that fire. I think extended to the 4th. And then one of the houses that were initially caught up in the fire eventually collapsed. So, I mean, that's quite sad, because that's what I would like it to know, that's somebody's property, you know, and imagine having to start afresh again in this current economy. It's not particularly the greatest. So, yeah, that's basically what I found for us in the news. So I think the rest of the conversation will be had while we're having the main conversation.
Yeah, okay, because it's, I mean, like you said, we're going to dwell on it and highlight it while we're having our discussion. So here is what I found in the news. So President's wife, President Tinubu, I mean, First Lady of Nigeria, Oluremi Tinubu, has come out to say, I think she's advising the country as the mother of the nation, saying that, well, she made a lot of points that since we like to have parties, that we can sort of sacrifice parties and help out people, you know, for the fact that there's a lot going on in the country, the government is trying and all whatnot. And it makes a lot of sense. Now, here is the controversial part that got a lot of Nigerians talking, is the fact that she said that the work you refuse to do at home, you will japa outside and you're doing the job. So she's telling Nigerians to make a lot of sacrifices during this difficult time. And so Nigerians have awakened, and they're saying, why are you saying that? So let's start with calculating the cost of work. The most menial job you could do would be maybe as a cleaner, clean toilets, and because usually that's what we Nigerians refer to. I can't do this job at home.
Sweep the streets.
And so in the United Kingdom, a cleaner makes about £11 an hour. And then in the United States, a cleaner makes about $14 to $15 an hour. And you're working, let's say, 6 to 8 hours. Now, at the end of the day, you're making it between $100 and $120 for a day, right? Which, if you, because I was asking people, and they said, if you know how to manage your finances, you can actually live off of it. Like people raise kids working as a cleaner. And so at the end of the day, you're making 22,000 or thereabout, based on the current, what's it called? The current naira value today, which is 1,400. You're making about 22,000 naira per hour. So, which means that the average cleaner is earning more than a medical doctor in Nigeria. You know, so
and there's also an option to do multiple jobs.
Yeah.
Unlike the structure here in Nigeria, when you're in a 9-to-5 sector, you're just doing a 9-to-5 job. You don't have that luxury to get other side gigs and whatnot. So
yeah. So Madam First Lady, Ma, I think, I mean, honestly, I buy the part about helping each other out and just sacrificing some Owembe budgets to help out people. But you see the part about Japa, I completely disagree. I would say if you have to travel to make life easier, go ahead and do that.
real.
Right. So that is all that we found in the news. When we come back, we get into our topic of discussion. Stay with us.
Hello guys, my name is Oni Arimil, also known as the baddest on the show. My hobbies are creating content, modeling, influencing, shopping, cooking, and many more. But anyways, this is a PSA, so tune in every Monday to Friday to watch Ray's Breakfast, where we spill the tea, spit insightful facts, and shake the table.
Welcome back. Now, due to political unrest, scandals involving corruption, and socioeconomic hardships throughout the country's history, many Nigerians have come to doubt the government's sincerity in committing to the welfare of her citizens. The topic of accountability and governance is central to this discussion. Although the Nigerian government has put in place a number of laws and programs targeted at raising the standard of living for its people, the efficiency and fairness of these endeavors are frequently questioned. So tonight we're asking, does the Nigerian government truly care for her citizens? Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can send us a message or join the conversation through sending us a message to our WhatsApp line 081-803-84663. The numbers will be out there on your screen. So yes, let's have this discussion. I feel like we already know the answer to this question, but let's ask it to establish our discussion tonight. Does the Nigerian government truly care for her citizens? Do you believe they care?
So for me, I mean, it's just quite unfortunate because ideally the government should actually put its citizens' interests in first place, right? Before anything else. I mean, because if we elected them, we put them there, so technically they are serving us, technically. But then that's not the case for Nigeria. So I can't categorically say that the Nigerian government actually cares for its people as much as they should. Given the our anchor story for today, I mean,
the fire outbreak on
it doesn't align, because why should the truck tankers be going one after another to get water? You know, these things are the reason why that agency was created was to battle things like fire incidents and all that. So ideally, there should be water trucks there should be water in the water trucks, not just having water trucks.
Right.
There should be water in the water trucks for situations like this, because I feel like if they had arrived there on time, they could have probably salvaged the situation a lot more than they did eventually. But yeah, so I don't think that the Nigerian government actually really cares for its citizens as much as they should.
Okay, NJ. Do you think the Nigerian government cares for our
Okay, so
citizens at
for
all?
me, I feel like the Nigerian government is supposed to care for its citizen. Let me start that way. But when you when the individuals who have been given authority to be in that position to manage certain resources decide to use those resources to their own advantage rather than to the service of the people,
Yeah.
then at that point, no, they are not thinking of the people. Don't truly care for the people. But when just before the elections, before they're elected into position, they give us the impression that they care for the people and they're here for the service of the people. So it has become a thing of doubt, as you can clearly see, where we can't say categorically if they really truly care for us or not. Now, if you ask me if they truly care, you can't group the government. See, we do that a lot, but we can't group the government at one. We can talk about the agencies and break it down and then, direct it to the people who are in charge. At this point in time and where we are now, I think we've overemphasized this, and I think even the Nigerian people have cried in different ways, even on social media, about the situation of things and why, and a call to action for things to actually change. Like, you can't be a fire service company or agency and you do not have water. There should be a system already put in place for something like that, even within the agency, because where are the trucks parked? The fire trucks are supposed to be parked at the fire station.
Right.
Now, the fire station should have a borehole there. You can't leave the fire station and then go to maybe a water facility to go and get water. It is something, it should be made for service. It's just like having a police station where you can't park the cars. Then you go and maybe the cars are parked somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you park there and then you use an Okada to the station. It just doesn't make sense. There should be availability for resources in order for these agencies to be able to carry out their duties. There should be a borehole at the barest minimum at where the trucks are parked. So right when you're leaving the truck station and you're signing out straight to where the water is needed or the service is needed. So how is it that, first of all, I'm sure that if we look at the video clearly, they are not all fire trucks. At a point in time, I'm sure they had to rent
some trucks,
some water tankers in order to, and all this goes to show how badly we're doing in terms of where we're supposed to be and what we're still playing at now. Like I keep saying it, we're in 2024. These things, if we're still shouting every day about food, clothing, shelter, and the basic amenities, what time do we have to actually look at the main root cause of the problems that we know that we have? Like water. If we're talking about water now, it tells you that there is problem.
For the fact that Lagos is a land surrounded by water, I believe it should make things easier. I mean, I'm not sure. I know we're surrounded by salt water. At least, well, there is Lake Victoria. And but mostly the ocean is like a lot of salt water. But I think there should be a way around it or so.
Whether or not we're even surrounded by a lot of water, ideally for an agency that was created for that purpose, to actually kill fire with water. Why don't they have water? It's just like going to a police station, there's a robbery case, and then the police now comes to tell you, oh, we don't have bullets in our guns. How does that sound?
Right. So let's bring this down to, yes, I mean, it's a given. Nigerians don't feel, I think that's a better way to put it. Nigerians don't feel the love of our leaders. We don't feel loved, we don't feel valued, we don't feel appreciated by our government. Now, the interesting thing is this government are also Nigerians. And NJ, during in the makeup room, there was something, we were having a discussion backstage about the fact that there are certain things that happen, and with the sense of urgency that there is a response in reference to the Delta State incident where, I mean, it was a terrible experience. We acknowledge that. And armies and everybody who died, nobody deserves that kind of gory death.
No.
We admit it. But with the way the military sprung into action, because of the 16 people that died, and even went ahead to open fire on the community because they wanted to take their leaders. And the people said, "Ah, you cannot. You came on a peacekeeping mission to investigate. So let's do that. Don't carry the leader and go." Anyway, ended up in a fire outbreak. But then the thing is, with the way they responded, meanwhile, we've been having people kidnapped, 287 in Kaduna, I think 200 women, can't remember where. And then recently again, about 16 or 18 people in Kaduna State. And these people are not found yet. We haven't gotten a hold of them. But now the soldiers, the people who carried out those terrible attacks and killed those soldiers, I understand from reports that about 3 of them have been caught.
Wow.
So how are you able to spring into such quick action and give us such immediate results, but then the average Nigerian citizen is left crying and nothing is to be done about them?
So I think, for sure, I don't think that Nigeria lacks the capacity to actually do the right thing. I think that we indeed have the capacity to do the right things. But then again, that's where we put priorities. Sometimes I feel like Nigerian governments, they don't rather get their priorities right. Like NJ rightly said when she was talking, I mean, at what point do we have time to actually look at the real issues when we're still dealing with very trivial issues like water? You know, these are very basic things. So I think that maybe if the government can actually put their priorities in check, the right things will be done. Yes, Nigerian problem is quite deeply rooted. I don't think anybody can successfully solve Nigerian's problem in 8 years. Trust me. So, but then again, it's a starting point. It feels like it's going to be a chain. So if you start, I come there next. I pick up from where you stopped.
And run with it.
And run with it. NJ picks up from where I stopped and run with it. Before you know what's happening, just give it a couple of years, Nigeria will get better. So I don't think that we don't have the capacity.
Do you think that Nigerians love Nigerians? Do you think we love ourselves? Because we are the people who produce this caliber of people that end up getting into government office and they don't care about us. Do we love ourselves?
I think so, Sha.
Like we said, if we did, there are a couple of things that we should have put in place when it comes to this water scarcity kind of thing. If we even look at it quite deeply and we say, what are the issues behind the lack of water or water scarcity at this critical point in time? What would it be? Is inadequate
planning?
Planning includes infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Then we also talk about the rate of pollution in Nigeria. And then the recent climate change. So there has been, even all the places where we used to have like maybe a lot of the dams and everything, they're being used, right? We're using up this a large capacity of water in Nigeria every day, even both polluted and non-polluted. But a combination of all these things are the reasons why we have such a situation right now. But I still believe that there's something that the government can put in place. Why do we have inadequate infrastructure at this moment? It's just like what we were saying. How can you have a fire service station that doesn't have a borehole? Knowing and bearing in mind the current situation of the country. Knowing that these things are bound to happen. There was a time that we had some major issue in Ikeja with the Ikeja cantonment. I think something went off, a bomb went off. It wasn't the bomb that killed people. It was just
fear.
You know, the fear of you basically know that you're not going to get help if anything happens to you. So everyone is running helter-skelter to get out of trouble. In that whole rush was where there was loss of lives and a lot of people got trampled on. So our issues are, and just like Oluwadamilola mentioned earlier, it takes intentionality for these things to be resolved. The people have been crying for a while. And I think it's high time, we can't overemphasize the fact that it's high time for the government to actually put reasonable structures in place and make a plan. You can't build a road and then 5 or 10, 20, no, okay, let me say 10 years later. Because at least we should be forward thinking. 10 years later, with the space and rate at which technology is going and the world is moving, you have to plan ahead of time. So you can't have roads where you don't have sidewalks. You can't have, you have water, you have an agency, a fire service, government fire service station that has no water facility. You have hospitals with inadequate infrastructure. And you want things to happen. And like I keep saying, if we're still every day dealing with food, clothing, shelter, then we are still at the big, no matter how, we can celebrate 70 years.
Yeah.
And if we're still
still be
dealing with those
infants.
3 basic things, we are still
Just doesn't
haven't
make
passed
sense. It
level
does
1.
hurt.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the world has gone past where we are.
True. I agree.
People are thinking of how to use solar and other, other technologies and, innovations that have come into the world and come into
To
existence.
make their
in order to
society
make
and their citizens have a
people
better
in
life.
villages are coming up with light from salt and water.
Yeah.
People are looking for natural ways of doing these things because we can no longer depend on the government to do it. And even at that, those people are not being celebrated. Those ideas are not being brought to the forefront as a remedy to the situation in the meantime. And those are like the cheapest way. You get budget every year, and the budget tells you that so trillion naira or dollars has been made available for this, and you don't even see as much as a pencil in a government agency. Everybody has to bring their own from home. So I keep saying it, that if we're dealing with things like water scarcity, what are we doing to rectify it? Look at how many buildings that got destroyed. Government is not going to do anything about it. Those people have lost their home forever.
Yeah.
Government is not going to help rebuild nothing. If you're waiting on that, then you are entirely a waste of time.
And I think to get in here, I think that's sort of like the mindset of the average Nigerian, and it shouldn't be, because there should be a level of dependence on the government, and just that feeling that I feel covered, I feel like you care about me. Let's talk about the student loans. The fact that, yes, school fees was increased, and we understand it. And then you brought about a proposal saying, okay, school fees has increased, but we also need, we have a solution for you. Get a student loan. You can go for it and whatnot. And recently, that student loan is doing like this. We're not quite sure, is it standing? Is it not coming through? And yes, there is the bill that was passed by Senate. If you default, I think you're meant to pay after 2 years.
Yeah, then if you
default,
you go to jail.
And if you know you cannot pay after 2 years, just go and swear an affidavit, because if they catch you, now jail you they go. So we're looking at all these things, and I think at the core of every Nigerian is just that pain of disappointment. But you know what? We'll go on a break, and when we come back, we're going to get very honest and very candid about what is it about Nigeria that hurts you the most. What is the biggest disappointment you've experienced as a Nigerian? And of course, we will be taking your calls and your messages too. This is Ways. What are you saying? Stay with us.
I am God's beauty, Ezra. I'm someone passionate about conversing, reading, and unwinding. Why? Because I have a deep knowledge on what starting your day is like. So yes, I'm inviting you to watch Ways Breakfast in the mornings, so that you'll not just be enlightened, but at the same time entertained. So tune in and start your day the right way on Ways Breakfast.
Welcome back. This is What Are You Saying? And before the break, we were discussing the topic, does Nigerian government love her people, her citizens? And while we have established the fact that we don't feel loved, we don't feel valued, we don't feel like we matter to our Nigerian government, perhaps they think that they're doing a great job, but on the ground level as citizens, we're not receiving that love. right? And we give different highlights of certain areas where we feel that they could have done better. A particular view is the NEMA situation and the fire outbreak on Lagos Island in the marketplace, where millions of properties were grazed over. About 4 compounds, 4 buildings got burnt. And the reason is, shocking enough, there isn't enough water supply to be able to stop the fire right on time. So that's just one of the major disappointments that comes with being a Nigerian. Perhaps that's not the best way to put it, but that's one of the disappointments we have to go through as Nigerians. And so now we're asking you, what is the biggest disappointment you have experienced as a Nigerian, or rather, what has hurt you the most as a Nigerian? And I'm throwing it back out to the ladies. NJ, you started early. You had a very passionate conversation about, you were saying earlier that I just feel like you were highlighting areas where they could have done better. But what has hurt you the most as a Nigerian?
Okay, so for me particularly, I wouldn't say that there's one thing that has hurt me the most. I think it's just the fact that the country is underperforming. I think that's the most disappointing thing about Nigeria, because as we very well know, there's the resources, there's the capacity, there are the people, there's all of that, and we still can make that out and solve that problem. We're going to keep having this recurring talk. Until we as a people realize that what affects one affects all.
True.
It might not be your house today, but something might happen and the fire service won't be available. There's a lot of areas in Nigeria that we need to look into. Is it politically? Is it the political instability? Is it the ethnic and religious tensions? Is it corruption? Is it infrastructure deficit, which I mentioned earlier? Is it youth and unemployment? So there are different areas, but every time we come on the show, we pick an area and we're trying to highlight that we think that more light should be shed on this area, and we think that the government should pay attention to this. And but if we give a list today, I'm sure I've given 5 just sitting down.
Yes.
And it just shows you. But at least I think the Nigerian people we're not blind to some of the activities happening, but we don't want it to be a case of, it's more like as if the government light on it. But we want us to get to the point where we're able to solve the root cause of the issues, the root cause of the problems, and thereby grow organically. Like, we have good land. We don't have a whole lot of natural disasters. We don't have floods. It happens occasionally, and
but most of our floods is like
man-made. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said it's occasionally because of the infrastructure deficit and all that. So these are all problems that can be solved. So being where we are now and how old we are, there should be a level that should have been covered over time. It seems like every time we do a checklist of Nigeria, we're always close to where we started. We're looking at it and we can't say we have gone far. We have gone far in age, yes, a lot of things, but it's almost like sometimes I do prefer the old times to now.
A lot of people say that. I hear that.
There was a lot of
these days.
functionality in Nigeria. There was a lot of things
Structure,
happening.
stability.
We had manufacturing plants. We had a whole lot of things and thriving economy at the time. And over time, due to be it greed, lack of poor management, not people getting people in the wrong seats of governments and in the wrong agencies, getting people who are not passionate about the country. Because it's one thing to be passionate about your work. It's one thing to be passionate about what you do.
Right.
It makes you put in a whole lot more. So when you're not able to think about that, it leaves your mind vulnerable to be able to think about yourself. And trust me, being an individual, you can fill up that space with yourself. And that yourself is what gets us to the point where we are packaging money. People are not able to find light in certain remote areas, and you have people who have money in a well in the same country. So you understand how there is no one that would believe that it's almost like a system of the poor gets poorer and the rich gets richer. So you're wondering, and that's why everyone wants to get into government, and everybody wants to get into that seat so that they can taste that
like
thing that changes, that thing that changes people's lives.
All right, our phone line is now open, 070-2500-7749. Again, that is 070-2500-7749. You can call us and let us know what is it about Nigeria that has hurt you the most? What is your biggest disappointment? Let's get honest. Let's get candid, not candy. Oluwatamilola, now back to you. What is your biggest disappointment so far over 60 years and counting?
I mean, well, definitely I'm not up to 60 years old, but for the few years I've spent on earth, it feels like for every time there's always one disappointment or the other when it comes to Nigeria. You know, for instance, like Angie rightly said, just to buttress Angie, because she said most of all the things I would have rather said actually. But then just to buttress a point, I mean, in fact, infrastructure is such a basic thing that no country should lack.
Right?
Like, it's so basic.
And given that we have all it takes to make it work.
That's why I said earlier that I don't think that Nigeria doesn't have the capacity. I think that we indeed have the capacity, but we're not just doing what is right. But then again, to tweak this a little bit, I would say, I think that sometimes one of the things that happen in Nigeria is, even when we can say, yeah, there's corruption everywhere, not just in Nigeria, that's the truth. But then again, even if something right is being done from the top, by the time it gets to the implementation level, I think that's where we always have the problem. It's not because there are lots of policies in Nigeria, let's not lie, policies there. But then again, the implementation is always the problem, right? So it brings me back to your question from earlier when you asked if Nigerians actually really like Nigerians. As much as we don't like to admit it, I don't even think Nigerians like Nigeria. That's the truth. Because if things are done right in this country, I think a lot of people would have problems. Because in Nigeria, sometimes we like to shunt queues. We don't like to go the way it's supposed to be. We like to do blah blah blah. And it's particularly owing to the fact that that's how most of us were really brought up. Like we said, I think we had a discussion on the show like 2 weeks back or so when we talked about survival, adaptability, and whatnot. Most Nigerians you see that survival mentality is just in our head. So even when you get to the place, so I understand that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So even when you get to the place of power, so let me give you a simple analogy. So there's a standing fan that is ideally supposed to rotate and cover everyone on this table, for instance. But for some reason, it's just stationary. It's just facing me. Now, when you get there, instead of you to fix it, let it face all of us, like turn so that it can serve everyone, you then turn it to face just yourself. So that's a very simple and clear analogy. Most Nigerians are actually really selfish. They just fight for themselves. So with that being said, I don't think that we really like ourselves. That, again, is even a disappointment. Because the truth is that when we start to get things right, are we really, 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 really ready to actually accept it that, yes, this is the right thing to do? Because it's one thing to say, oh, the government have their own laxity, for real.
Yeah.
They should do a lot of things right, let's not lie. But then again, we ourselves, are we really ready to accept those things that we are crying for them to do right? Because I don't think that as much as the people in government might be somewhat selfish, just fight for themselves and their families and for years to come. I also think that at some point, sometimes they eventually do the right things from up there. But when it gets to the lower level, when it comes to implementation, that's where we always get it wrong. Because take for instance, the police force. Okay, so the IG says, oh, this is the right thing to do. You don't check phones. It's not the police business to be checking people's phones. One thing. But let me tell you something. When you are driving on the road at night, you will see a policeman stop you and say, oh, can I do this? Can I check your phone? Even when they've already given the directive that, no, it is not in your place to do so. And then you cannot fight it because somebody that has a gun is already above you, whether you like it or not, no matter who you are.
Right.
So you need to like chill and just do whatever they say you should do so that they can let you go. So you see that I just generally believe that implementation is Nigerians' problem, and that alone is heavy disappointment. Trust me.
Right, don't forget you can send us your message on our WhatsApp line 08180384663. That's 08180384663, and you can call us directly in the studio 07025007749. So here is my biggest disappointment is the fact that kidnappings and terrorism, the fact that I can live within my country and feel insecure. And the military will come out and say stuff like, we don't have enough budget for weapons, or we don't have enough weapons or stuff like that to fight insecurity. And then you're watching the people in the Senate. I'm not saying don't do your job. Do your job. Let all of us do our job. But also, let's work with priorities. Senate, you're making bills. You have tons of bills that you have passed. And like you said, there is no implementation. And then there are the people who are in charge of saving and protecting lives. I mean, you need the country to be safe and functional for you to be able to do your job as the Senate or in the House or whatever office you're in, and whatever privilege that comes with it. And at the end of the day, we're so focused on making these people more luxurious, live better lives, give them more military people. You see one person and they have about 10 military personnel guarding them. I'm like, it's just one life, or perhaps just one family. You know, and the money that is, I mean, I know that the budget already for military or for weapons is a lot. We have that on standby. But it's either someone is not spending it on the right thing, or the money is not enough. So, but whatever it is, we need to work on these kidnappings. It's not safe anymore. It's not okay that the average Nigerian is walking out there. There is hunger, and then there is insecurity as well. That's crazy sad. It's just, it's a huge disappointment for me. Another major disappointment is the food insecurity we're facing right now. Nigeria is a society that is blessed with so much beautiful land. I mean, in the north, I was reading a research that said over 70% of lands in Nigeria hasn't even been explored. And we have such beautiful land, beautiful weather. We don't have, what is it called, natural disasters, like you mentioned, NJ. And so we have the ability, according to that report I read, that we have the ability to even feed the world. But no, within ourselves, we're still struggling with food, such that even Ukraine had to send us grains. That's painful. Honestly, it's just, sometimes I just look at these realities and like, because in Nigeria we have the lands, we can plant organic foods. There's just so much potential in this country, and the fact that we are not exploring it, and not because we cannot explore it, but because, for instance, right now farmers, it looks as though it's a witch hunt for farmers, because we hear of more farmers' death almost every day in the news. Today in the news, or was it yesterday, there was this cattle herders or so, a clash with people in Otukpo, and about 16 farmers were killed again. The reason being that the cattle ranchers, the herdsmen wanted to graze, and then the farmers are saying, no, don't come to my farmland because you don't know the difference. Your cattle will come or your herds will come and eat my crops. And then there was a clash, and then 16 farmers were killed. And then there are other farmers in places like Zamfara where you have your products and you want to sell, but because of high terrorist activities going on there, some of them would say, oh, before you get to your farmland, you have to pay so and so amount before you get to the farmland. And we just shouldn't be going through that. I don't want to get all emotional, because on TV you're supposed to be perfect and get your emotions in order. So I'm trying to do that, frankly speaking. But yeah, Nigeria breaks my heart. Yeah,
It does.
I've said it.
The one that even shocked me the most was this Twitter ban. I don't know if you guys remember Twitter ban. It feels like it was an infringement, or just taking away our freedom of speech, because the only avenue to which citizens can actually cry out for things to get better is when they, via social media, speaking, talking about it literally. But then again, you now take away that avenue to actually talk about it for no particular reason. Just maybe, I don't know, was it out of fear of we can say the wrong things and then the UN will now get involved and then it will be a problem for the Nigerian government. I'm not sure why, but it was just it was not such a great move. I mean, that was quite disappointing because I miss all the other problems that we have in this country, banning Twitter. And guess what Nigerians did? Of course, we always devise another means to actually make it work because then people started downloading VPNs, you know, just to be able to access Twitter and all that. And then by the time they got tired, they eventually reinstated it. So I'm just like, come on now. We have too many problems and to be dealing with these very difficult things.
I think it's just high time for us to prioritize our problems.
Yeah.
Because that's just we take very rash decisions too quickly without looking at this situation, you know, and critically analyzing what's the best course of action to take. You know, something happens, maybe you have the Nigerian, maybe a union, maybe the Union of Doctors, and they come out to say they feel, you know, they're not being paid well, or they feel like they're not being given the right benefits. Let me put it that way. And maybe you start to, the next step the Nigerian government would take would be to maybe start banning them from being able to go out of the country or being able to obtain visas or leave the country. I don't think that should be something. I don't think, yes, you can advise and, you know, employ them, but the only way you can sustain keeping citizens within the country is by providing amenities that are needed.
Right.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to. You tell someone that you go out of the country to do the same job we're doing in Nigeria, but you do that with 24 hours light.
Yeah.
The only thing is you have to pay for it. And if you're getting a good job, if you have a good job, you should be able to afford it.
Right.
So there's one thing to be in an environment where someone would rather be in prison outside the country than be in prison in Nigeria, because it means two different things. Someone who is in prison outside the country is probably living a better life than someone who is living on the island in Lagos.
True. I mean, if you leave it to most Nigerians, trust me, I don't think that a lot of people will actually leave the country.
If you open up the borders and you want to test how much Nigerians love Nigeria, open up the borders for 1 week.
Free access.
You are the only one that will be here. Because
I completely
a lot of people will be willing to walk through.
Honestly.
See, we'll walk through. Backpack will help each other. We are going to, let's go. Like a lot of
people leaving Egypt to Canaan.
A lot of people will be willing to do that.
Oh my
but
God.
You can't tell people, you can't want people to you can't demand loyalty from citizens that you do not offer enough.
That is true. If you don't want me or if you don't appreciate me, let me go.
I think that if Nigeria is a much enabling environment, more people would stay than actually.
Yes.
I don't think people want to leave.
If we can get 1 point right, I'm just saying, even focus on 1 point and let's say, okay, they've gotten education right. So, okay, once you have the education right, we can start training them. Okay, so the next step is that's why it's called a plan. The next step is to get maybe, okay, healthcare. Yes, healthcare, because as they're growing, you need them to be growing strong. So in case something happens, have healthcare. Then you have, you know, different facilities, whether it's water and light and things like that. Oh, come on. Even just take it one step at a time, and then we'll know that. You see, when you do things, I'm sorry to say, but, you know, when I say things about, there are certain people who get into government and you can see their workings. And when you see their workings, it kind of sheds a whole lot of light on the fact that, like you said, Nigerian government doesn't love Nigerians, or Nigerians don't love Nigerians, more to say. And why would I say that? So you see some people who, because it's the thought that counts. You see some people who get into government and immediately within a short space of time, they're achieving things and things are going on. It might be delayed, obviously, because signing papers, obviously there are a lot of people a lot of tables they will have to pass. But you see things going on. You see them pushing for certain bills to be passed. You see them pushing for certain projects to be completed and asking questions. Why is this not completed? Who is supposed to complete it? Why haven't you you have till now to complete, you know, given a time frame and a deadline and everything. And there's a lot of follow-up. And then some people get into government and maybe you achieved all that in 8 years. Someone gets into government, and because he has a plan and he knew what he was coming for, and he was right for the position, within a month, before you do 100 days in office, you just hear that, okay, this has gone on, this has gone on, this has gone on.
And you know, NJ, this reminds me of, I think we should highlight him, Governor of Abia State. He's from Labour Party, Governor Oti. 9 months in office. Now, remember, the Nigerian government, we've been saying 9 months is not enough time to do something or make a change. Now, Abia State Governor, within the 9 months that he has been in office, has been able to work in such a way that Abia has increased power supply. They have, well, maybe not 100% stable, but there's been a reasonable increase, and people in Abia are happy right now. And the terrible road in Aba, which is like the commercial hub of Abia State, he's worked on 3 major roads. The President Tinubu, was there to inaugurate it sometime in February, and he was commending him. This is a man who got in there, and he had never been in politics before. He was a former banker, so he gets in there, and in 9 months, we're looking at a great track record, you know. And then there is Nigeria. See, now they were talking about lights. So I was reading that TCN, the cable that we use for transmission, because I was wondering, we're supplying Ghana electricity, we're supplying other countries in Nigeria, in African communities. Why are we not having that electricity? Now, the TCN, the cable that they are using, their power plants, and so they've not changed it in 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Majority of them are still the same standard 30 years ago. Do you know how much change electricity has gone through? So the generating people, the generating companies that are generating electricity, but then the power that they're generating, we don't have enough transmitters to carry it through.
The cables don't have the capacity.
Yes, because it's outdated. Oh yeah, now change it.
You see, when I was talking earlier, I was actually speaking about my governor, but I didn't want to be the one to blow that trumpet.
Oh, look at you.
I didn't want to be the one to blow that trumpet, so thank you. You know, that was what I was saying about people getting into government, and you see the difference. You see that they are here to work.
Yes.
And you know that they have a plan. So when, initially, when they're giving their initial statements before the elections, they tell you a lot of things that they want to do, and lots of changes that they want to make.
List,
but and they get into government and they seem to forget that part. Here is a guy who seems to have a plan and is working by that plan and is achieving things within the time in office. A lot of things are going smoothly. And even the president can attest to that, for even having the courage to even go there to go and commission it. Because this has been a state that has been in if I can say the least, it has been governed poorly for the last couple of years. I don't want to go how far, but the state has suffered a lot. Bad electricity, bad road, and there's a lot that can come out of that state. There's a lot that can come out of Nigeria if well managed and well, put in place. But well,
anyway, so I guess now we all have the answer to the question: does Nigerian government love her citizens? Perhaps they do, but we don't feel loved.
Yeah.
I think that's a summary of everything, and there is so much we can do right because we have all the potential in this world to get it right, and we hope that we do. And this is what we call it a wrap on today's edition of What Are You Saying? #Ways. Thank you very much, ladies. NJ and Oluwadamilola. I think we had a pretty amazing show, and thank you for watching. Don't forget, we have more content for you here on Upgrade TV, so go ahead, like, subscribe, and share. See you tomorrow on Ways. What are you saying? Wait, what are you saying? #Ways. Bye-bye.